What is culture? If you ask anthropologists to define what is culture is, you will get different definition. However, most of this definition could emphasize roughly the same thing, that culture is shared, transmitted through learning, and help shape behavior and belief. Culture is a concern to all four subfields, and while our earliest ancestors relied more on biological adaptation, culture now shapes humanity to much larger extent. In addition, culture is universal among all human groups and even exists among some primates. All creatures have to provide for physical, emotional, and social needs for their members, and cultivate new members, resolve conflict, and promote survival for their new members.
Characteristics of culture. Culture has 5 basic characteristics. It is learned, shared, based on symbols, integrated, and dynamic. All cultures share these basic features. Culture is learned. It is not biological. We do not inherit it. Much of learning culture is unconscious. We learn culture from families, peers, institutions, and media. The process of learning culture is also known as enculturation. While all humans have basic biological needs such as food, sleep, and sex, the way we fulfill those needs varies cross-culturally. Culture is shared. Because we share our culture with other members of our group, we are able to act in socially appropriate ways as well as predict how others will act. Despite the shared nature of culture, that doesn't mean that culture is homogeneous. The multiple cultural worlds that exist in any society are discussed in a detail below.
Culture is based on symbols. A symbol is something that stands for something else. Symbols vary cross-culturally and are arbitrary. They only have meaning when people in a culture agree on their use. Language, money, and art are all symbols. Language is the most important symbolic component of culture. Culture is integrated. This is known as holism, or the various parts of a culture being interconnected. All aspects of a culture are related to one another, and to truly understand the culture, one must learn about all of its parts, not only a few. Culture is dynamic. This simply means that cultures interact and change. Because most cultures are in contact with other cultures, they exchange ideas and symbols. All cultures change. Otherwise, they would have problems adapting to changing environments. And because cultures are integrated, if one component in the system changes, it is likely that the entire system must adjust.
Culture is intellectual. Often it lays down an ideal patterns of behavior that are expected to be followed by individuals so as to gain social acceptance with one another with the same culture. Culture is diverse. It is a system that has several mutually interdependent parts. Although these parts are separate, they are interdependent with one another, forming culture as a whole. Culture set and legal behavior. It involves how an activity should be conducted and how individuals should act appropriately.
Components of culture. Elements of culture, basic elements of culture. Culture is the totality of learned and socially transmitted behaviors. It is shared and practicing in all societies of the world. Basic elements of culture includes ideas, beliefs, values, customs, which make it a whole configuration. Culture is transmitted from one generation to another. Each culture has some basic elements.
Basic elements of culture. There are some basic cultural elements given below. First, language. Second, symbols, norms, values, beliefs, and cognitive elements. Language. A group of words or ideas having common meaning and is shared to a social situation is called language. Language is the entrance to a culture. Language is a set of socially sound patterns, words, and sentences having specific meaning and terminology common to the same culture. You can learn effects of ethnocentrism. Language is source of communication and to transmit message from one person to another. It is the method to mold the behavior and experience of a person. Language differs from culture to culture and is transmitted from one generation to another. So, language is the key to open the social life of an individual with some special characteristics.
Culture is a system of symbols. Symbols are anything used to represent, express, and stand for an event or situation. Symbols direct to guide our behavior. It is used to show an event of past, present, or future. For example, the heap of ash shows that something has been burned, or the wet street shows that it has rained. Bowing head, whistling, winkling of the eye situations are all the symbol, which express a specific object ideas about other. Examples are flag, attempt, picture, statues are symbol. Symbols are the short expressions for the identifications of an object or situation.
Norms. Norms as elements of culture are the rules and the guidelines which specify the behavior of an individual. Norms keep a person within the boundary of society and its culture. It gives us restriction about something which to do and which not to do. It molds our behavior and gives us knowledge about wrong and right. Norms can be divided into folkways are the simple customary ways of the people. It is the normal and habitual action of people within the culture. Folkways are recognized or accepted ways of behavior. These are the behavior pattern which a person uses generally in his or her daily life. Mores is a Latin word and the plural of mos, which means custom or beliefs accordance with a group customary expectation. It is the must behavior of a person. Mores refers to what ought to be, what ought not to be. Mores are serious norms but are informed like folkways. They have a serious binding on a group, the violation of more threats to social order. Punishment may be both formal and informal for the violation of mores.
Values. Anything getting importance in our daily life becomes our values. The origin of values is not biological, but it is social production while living in society the values develop. Values depend upon the culture. Culture varies from society to society, and thus values are different in every social situation. Values are what we like and what we say will in our society. Values are the good idea in thinking of a person. Some values are hereditary, which we gain from our elders, books, and parents. The culture is full of values and can transmit from one generation to another. When a natural object gets a meaning, it becomes a value.
Every sectors within the culture having some belief for cultural refugee. These beliefs are responsible for spiritual fulfillment of needs and wants. Muslim believe in God, Holy Prophet, the Day of Judgment, recitations of Holy Quran, and Hajj, and the most traditional religion, the Holy Catholic Church, or the Holy Roman Catholic Church. Cognitive elements of culture are those individuals know how to cope with an existing social situation and how they're going to survive, how to make shelter from storm, and other natural calamities, on how they going to travel and transport, are the practical knowledge which make a culture. Such knowledge is carefully taught to every generation.